In this video, we'll give you 3 OP ways to get free kills on every map. What's going on, guys? It's your host Sergeant Frost, and today we'll be bringing you 3 ways to pick up easy kills on every map. This video is gonna get pretty nerdy, but by following these tips, you'll be sure to pick up easy kills no matter what map you're on. A lot of what it takes to match MVP every game is just knowing the maps really well, and being able to get cheeky kills on important rounds too. So this guide's gonna teach you just that. Without further ado, please like and subscribe, and let's get right into it. First up is Bind. On Bind, it's becoming more and more common for Sovas to send a dart here, at the corner of Garden and Long. That way, it'll clear both everything in Garden and also to the right side of Long in case anyone tries to get cheeky early in the round. It's a really good arrow since as soon as your team goes to clear it, you're able to drone from Long onto Sight right after, essentially getting all the way up into Sight by only using 2 abilities. What almost nobody recognizes though is that the dart does not clear the deep corner right behind it, allowing AWPers or honestly really anyone to temporarily hide from it, perhaps get a kill or otherwise simply take back control. It really gives your opponents a false sense of security, and it's a great way to pick up some easy kills. If you don't often find yourself on Long but prefer playing hookah instead, I'm sure you've had to deal with this boom bot before. It basically becomes a standard piece of utility that almost every race throws. But there is a catch. If you're sneaky, you can hide in this corner here by standing directly right of the entrance. You won't be spotted, and you're able to peek into mid, catching your enemies totally off guard. What you see often is that people get a bit too comfortable just running in after their boom bot. So if you notice that your opponents are usually at hookah fast and rather easily, this might just be the play to remind them that their plan is not foolproof. Another cool spot on Bind that is a bit similar but not really the same is playing tucked on top of truck. I know top truck is a pretty well-known spot, especially for AWPing jets, but what you rarely see is people playing it a bit more sneakily. If you're playing an agent like Omen, Chamber, Raze, or Jet, you can easily get on top of the truck and simply wait for your enemies to run out short before you begin to peek. Of course, it requires some level of team play, as if Showers isn't held or smoked, you can't be seen playing truck. But if you can sort that out with one of your teammates, it's a really good spot that'll definitely net you some kills. Now, before we go on to ASCENT and all the other maps after that, we ask you, what is your best trick to easily pick up kills? Now, I understand you don't want to drop your best play, so if you tell us your second or third best trick, that's also fine. And I guess if you don't really want to share, you can always just comment your pet's name or favorite animal or something. That'll definitely count as well. Either way, make sure to drop it down below, and I trust you guys in the algorithm to like the best plays, so that way we can all learn. Either way, let's get right back into the video. Over on ASCENT, a pretty cool thing you can do to get some easy kills and move away from the ever same Killjoy B setup is placing one of your mollies somewhat aggressively in A main, positioning yourself in the right entrance right against the wall behind it, while also having your turret placed a bit farther back behind you watching the molly spot. That way, as soon as your turret activates, you can also use your molly, and then swing right as the opponents get slowed from the turret firing. It's super stressful for them to try and hold you, as they'll be standing in a molly, and peeking you aggressively while in this setup is even harder, as if they try to peek your turret will notify you, and it will also mess up their movement. All in all, a good way to pick up an easy kill or two, and really surprise your opponents by doing something they've probably never seen before. Another angle you should definitely know of is this one. If you peek top mid early in the round or ask for a smoke and get right in this right side corner with the bench and the little platform, you can get on top or play around in it, and get a really strong angle on top of anyone going up to cat. Of course, this angle itself isn't a crazy play or anything, but it really is super annoying to deal with, and probably the easiest way to hold catwalk as a defender. On the B side of ASCENT, a common place to play in is lane, but what not enough people take advantage of is that you can hide from anyone going out of main, and you can do that by standing at the edge of the ledge. When people run out main, usually one of the first spots they look is lane. But if you wait for them to run out and clear it, and then you peek right as they turn back to spawn and mark it, you can easily get a timing and get some pretty easy kills. As long as you don't do it every round to the point where they expect it, that is. It's actually really strong and it will catch most players off guard, even if they know the angle exists. On ICEBOX, one of my favorite plays is to get into attackers' nest early as a defender. To do this effectively, you need to jump on top of the box in order to get ready to jump onto the zipline instantly. Then closely watch time, and as soon as it hits 0, jump towards the zipline and spam your use key. As soon as you're on, sprint the first second or so, then shift the latter part in order to avoid footsteps. If they have a Sova that's darting at the start of the round, make sure to ask your teammates to shoot it. And voila, you're really in an aggressive position that as long as you don't go there every round, they definitely won't expect. Another aggro play you can do that's especially good if they have a Sova arrow I previously mentioned is to run up past the orb and keep hugging the wall in order to beat the dart. Since the dart is up, people tend not to expect a person to be there, making it the perfect opportunity for you to strike. This one's especially good if you're playing an agent like Chamber or Reyna, as they'll allow you to get one and then quickly get back out. So make sure to try it if you're playing either character. And the last one you should know on ICEBOX is that playing slightly into the right of this cubby of main as a defender is a really good way to merge both angles attackers could walk out from. And not a lot of people play there. It's also a really strong off angle. And once again, this angle is especially strong with an agent like Chamber. And while some of these angles seem pretty easy to clear, the reasons why they work require a whole lot of explanations to really understand completely. That's why if you ever want to get a better grasp on why these angles work well or learn some more tricks to give yourself advantages in fights, make sure to visit us at ProGuides.com, where our Immortal and Radiant level coaches are eager to help you level up and climb the ladder. The link is in the description as always if you're interested. On split, the freest kills you can find are in this angle, holding on the right side of ramp into A main. Attackers can't afford to check it since if they do, they're exposed to the site, and even then they hardly ever expect it. As with all angles, don't use them every round, but this one really is extremely strong, regardless of the agent you're playing. A slightly more risky but also strong angle is one where you basically just stand on the edge of the rafters holding B heaven. This is not an angle a lot of people play, and thus you're sure your enemies won't pre-aim you. However, that also means you have to be somewhat clean with your aim, as if you whiff, you won't have much space to move around. Another good thing to know about on split is that a lot of the time, assuming Sage doesn't place her wall sideways, you can jump over the wall by using the mid box here. The trick is to crouch jump as soon as you hit the small ledge and your screen bobs. Then let go of crouch as soon as your character's feet touch the box. When I first heard of it, I kind of assumed the jump was near impossible, but after practicing it for like half a minute, I already hit it. And a couple minutes later, I could do it 90% consistently. The easiest way is definitely with your knife out facing the box, but you can also do it with your gun out, and even with the gun out running backwards. Try it out in a custom, and if you get the chance in game, you may as well try it out. Over on Haven, it's a good thing to know that if you're playing Omen, you can TP across both longs, and you can peek from the opposite sites where defenders might expect you from. Especially on C long, this gives me free kills all the time, but also on A, it's a good way to catch, for example, AWPers off guard. And of course, it works the other way around as well. If you're playing on defense, you can easily TP behind the A long boxes and back, and also on C, you can TP to either side and peek to catch your enemies off guard. Another good thing to know on C is that even if you have enemies in garage, as long as you properly tuck yourself into the corner on plateau, you cannot be spotted unless people walk all the way up. If your garage player dies and you're expecting people to push out fairly soon, it can really pay off to tuck, wait a couple of seconds, and then get a timing while they're clearing other angles. Speaking of garage, if you're KO defending there, one of the easiest ways to guarantee a kill is to let a player in, and then bank a flash off of the window frame. It'll land on the steps below it, and it'll allow you to peek as the flash is going off with zero risk of blinding yourself. That way, you can peek much faster than people normally expect, and it's really tough to deal with. Oh, by the way, since the window in mid is similar, you can basically do the same thing there as well on attack. Then we have Fracture. One of my favorite angles on Fracture, especially on eco rounds or if I'm playing against an agent like Breach or something, is by standing in this cubby under sight. It feels a little uncomfortable at first, but it's deeper than you think, and it's actually really hard to see you. If the enemies know you're playing it, they can pre-aim there, and that way you're certainly dead. But what happens more often than not is that they don't even know it exists and they simply just run right past. A similar type of position, but in my opinion less risky, is again hiding on A, just this time behind the box on top sight. This position goes uncleared super often, so on eco and rifle rounds alike you can really punish your opponents. But if you truly want to take full advantage, you can even play there with a chamber TP in order to hide, get one, and get out. A super annoying strategy. Then the last thing to be mindful of, if you're playing in ropes, you can actually hold a cross on anyone that wants to plant for main on the left corner side of sight. It's not uncommon for players to forget to smoke ropes, so if you notice that that's the case, it can be a pretty rewarding angle to hold. Best case scenario, you get the spike dropped on the floor, and suddenly the easy round your opponents might have been expecting until then doesn't seem too easy anymore. On breeze, pushing elbow as a defender is really strong. The timing that you get there is a lot better than your opponents usually expect. If your enemies like lurking there, it's not a bad idea to catch them out early and make them think twice before doing it again. Even if they decide to push B and there's multiple there, it isn't unlikely at all that you're able to get away with multiple. Who knows, you might even get out alive. On A, the site where most teams go frequently, it's good to know that Viper walls usually have at least some issues. A lot of the time, there's a small cubby you can sit in around bricks. Other times you can sit on top of the bricks as a chamber or a jet. And even if they try to fix that, you can often sit behind the bricks on the defender side of it, allowing you to wait for steps and then swing out without being disrupted by the Viper wall. Try to find these holes and abuse them a few times. That way, your enemies can feel a lot more scared when going out, just the way they should be. And lastly, if you're peeking mid from double doors, make sure you don't peek it below, like most people tend to do, but instead of holding an angle from a slightly higher up the ramp. That way, you can really mess with your enemy's crosshair placement, and you have a much lower chance of getting insta-headshotted. Well guys, that's gonna wrap up the guide. If you want a part 2 or just like watching the video, make sure to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to visit ProGuides.com for the best guides and coaches. And it's been your host, Sergeant Frost, and I'll see you all in the next one.